Unknowingly dated my estranged father for months, discovered our horrifying connection in front of my mom. Now my world is shattered. I'm a 25-year-old guy, and I have a thing for older men. Call it daddy issues, a fetish, or whatever you want, but I pretty much only date or sleep with men who are 40 and up. My family doesn't know that I'm gay. Honestly, that's not even an issue, they just never ask. We don't really share much personal stuff, and so it just never came up. About 6 months ago, I met David, obviously not his real name, at a club. We hit it off immediately. He was supposedly 43, although I eventually found out he's actually 47. But he looks amazing for his age, fit, crazy attractive, charming, and every bit the older man I've always dreamed of. A few days after we met, he left for a 2-week work trip, but we kept messaging and, for once, I realized I truly liked someone. That's rare for me. When he got back, we went out on a real date, and after that, we were pretty much together. David has a lot of money, yes, I guess you could say I'm his sugar baby, but the money isn't what drew me in, even if it's a nice bonus. I didn't tell anyone except 2 of my best friends about him, and neither of us met the other's friends or family. It all felt safe, private, until last night. We were at a restaurant together, just enjoying each other, when out of the corner of my eye, I spotted my mom. I'd moved out years ago, and we only text if we need something. I had no clue she'd be there. It was odd because she hates going out and thinks it's a waste of money. She hadn't seen us yet, but David noticed me staring at her. I'll never forget the way his face changed. He went from his usual, charming smile to this blank, panicked look that scared me. I got a cold, bad feeling in my stomach and immediately asked what was wrong, but he just stood up abruptly and excused himself. I begged him to talk, even grabbed his arm to stop him from running. I was freaked out and suspicious, but I could never have prepared myself for what came next. While I was trying to hold him back, my mother must have spotted us, because suddenly she was right beside our table, asking what was going on. Her face was hard to read, she looked horrified, but I had no clue that David was my father, and she didn't know I was gay. David's discomfort was palpable, he was sweating, looking like he'd rather die than be there. I assumed it was because he didn't want her to know I was dating someone his age. I started to explain everything, ready to brush off whatever she was worried about, and even reached for David's hand. But before I could say anything else, she interrupted. Why would you go behind my back like this? I just stared at her, mystified. I didn't know he was my dad. What was she talking about? I figured maybe she thought I had contacted my father behind her back, the man she always described as a monster. But I took it personally, thinking she was trying to police who I could love. So, casually, I told her I was on a date with my boyfriend and reached for David's hand. That's when he bolted. He literally jumped up and ran. Like an Olympic runner, weaving between waiters, trying to get away from us. Everyone in the restaurant just stared. I wanted to crawl under the table and die from embarrassment. My mom stood there, frozen, like she'd seen a ghost. I was more confused than ever, completely lost as to what was actually happening. The only thing I could guess was she was upset over my being gay, which didn't fit. She's always been very open and liberal, or maybe she was mad about the age gap. None of it made sense, but the horror on her face told me something much bigger was happening. She told me to get up and come with her. I obeyed, numbly, paid for our drinks and appetizers. Thank God the expensive entree hadn't arrived yet. Mom made some excuses to her friends, and once we were in her car, we sat in total silence for what felt like 10 minutes. I was too shocked to say anything. My boyfriend had just run out on me in public, and my mother was acting like she'd seen the devil. I tried texting David, desperate for an answer. No reply. When my mom finally spoke, she sounded wounded, like someone had shot her. The pain in her voice was gut-wrenching. She asked who that man was, and I, completely clueless, started telling her about this wonderful older guy I loved. I poured my heart out, still thinking of him as my boyfriend, totally missing the horror of what was really going on. The realization that I was talking about my love for my own father to my mother makes me want to throw up. Eventually, my mom, barely holding herself together, told me, that man was my father. She recognized him instantly. Hearing those words, it felt like the ground was ripped from under me. That conversation was the most traumatic experience of my entire life. At some point, we both just started crying, a raw, animalistic grief that I never knew I could feel. Everything else after that is a blur, especially contrasted with the vivid clarity of every moment leading up to it. We drove home in silence, and I ended up sleeping in my old bedroom. We haven't talked about it since. My brother is still at home. He's a med student, never moved out because of housing costs, and he knows something happened. He tried to talk to me, but all I could do was break down in tears again. How am I supposed to ever tell anyone about this? The worst part, the part that shatters me, is that, even now, I think I still love David. Admitting that, even to myself, makes me sick. I can't believe any of this is my reality. Why did this have to happen to me? How does someone recover from something like this? How can I ever look my mom in the eyes again? I've been holed up in my old room, still crying. Before this, I can't even remember the last time I cried. Now, I can't stop. I've tried messaging David, but I don't even know what to say or ask. The last text I sent him just says, "Please call me, I love you," right after he ran. Thinking about that makes me want to scream at the universe. Update 1. It always feels jarring when people tell me everything's going to be alright, especially when my entire life feels like it's burning to the ground. I guess I'm coping better than expected, but honestly, it feels like I'm just dissociating at this point. What I absolutely do not appreciate, though, is being flooded with DMs about my sex life. Since so many people seem desperate for the tea, let me put it all out there and then you can all move on. Yes, we had sex. No, I wasn't the bottom. I don't buy into outdated, heteronormative ideas about gay sex. I'm a switch and I only date other switches. Yes, the sex was good. I don't date people who are bad in bed. No, I'm not going to keep having sex with my father, send you nudes, or illustrate all the sordid details. What is wrong with some of you? There you go, take that, and leave me alone already. While we're here, I'm also beyond disgusted by the blatant racism I've been subjected to in my messages and especially on TikTok. Comments like he wanted to get rid of my black ass or that's what you get for having white DNA. Are you people for real? Some of you will DM a total stranger just to vomit your bigotry into their inbox, and that's what bothers you about this? There was plenty of homophobia too, but at this point, I don't even see a reason to address it. You know it's wrong and you do it anyway, so what's the point? For everyone else who's actually being supportive, I need to talk about my mom. People seem to have a lot to say about her, and I want to make it clear, she isn't a bad person. She did everything she could to raise us, doing her best as a black single mother in a country where she was very much a minority, facing obstacles at every turn. But she still managed to give my brother and me a wonderful childhood, and when I think of her, my memories are nothing but fond and loving. Some people have assumed, because of past things I've said, that my family isn't close. That's not the case at all. We just really value independence and privacy. I live about an hour from my mom, but I visit monthly and we call at least once a week. We just don't force each other to share things we aren't ready to share. My brother's always been open, especially about his dating life. My mom knows all his girlfriends and they've often come over. I'm just the private one in the family. Now, my mom isn't perfect, no parent is. Some people got upset that she didn't tell us everything about our dad, but she knows she made mistakes. Still, she moved across continents to get us away from him, to protect us so we'd never run into him. She couldn't have predicted he'd end up in the same country years later. She really did try to keep us from ever getting near him, and none of this is her fault. I don't blame her, not even a little. In fact, I blame myself for being so angry whenever she tried to tell me about him. I wanted nothing to do with my father, resented him deeply for leaving her on her own to struggle in a world that seemed dead set against her. Finding all this out made even more family secrets come to the surface. I learned my brother and mom often did talk about our dad, just not in front of me, because I made it clear I never wanted to hear about him. I once completely lost it when my brother kept asking about our dad's birthday. Turns out, my brother knew his full name, had seen pictures, and actually knew most of the backstory about what went down between our parents. That's my mom's story to share, not mine, so I won't go into details, but just know that he wasn't just emotionally abusive like I'd believed, but physically and financially abusive too. The story that he left when she found out she was pregnant wasn't even true. He threatened her if she didn't get an abortion, so she packed up and left. He never tried to contact her, she just wanted to keep us safe. Looking back, I feel so guilty for shutting them out whenever they tried to tell me about him. I figured I was better than him and didn't need to bother knowing anything about him. That arrogance backfired big time. My mom doesn't blame me, she's been so understanding, and I've convinced her to start therapy and group counseling for domestic violence survivors. My brother? He's livid. I felt like he deserved to know the truth, so after talking to my therapist, we just ripped off the band-aid. I told him I was gay, he didn't care, then that I was into older men, he was confused, and had no idea where I was going with this, and finally, that I'd met our dad. He's always wanted to meet our father, struggled with not having a dad, while I never gave a damn. The excitement drained from him fast, though, when he connected the dots, my interest in older men, meeting dad, my weird behavior these last days. It destroyed him. I really regret telling him, he can't come to terms with it. He sees our father as our father, where I always viewed him as some absent sperm donor. My brother hasn't said much to me since, mostly just disgust, insults, or passive aggression. My mom is furious with him, which doesn't help. She thinks he's being unfair, but I get why he's so angry and disgusted, even if he's handling it badly. He's acting like someone I don't even know anymore. He went so far as to call my aunt and tell her what happened. Luckily, we can trust her to keep the secret, but it still feels like a betrayal. He refuses therapy, says I'm the messed up one whenever we bring it up. It's only been 48 hours since we told him, so maybe he'll come around. He's fixated on meeting our dad, which everyone, rightly, says is a terrible idea, but he's stubborn and keeps demanding the address. He's obsessed with this fantasy of a man who has never given a damn about any of us. Even before I knew who he was, he never wanted to meet my family. He laughed at the idea. Now, my father, that's the only person in this mess I truly despise, other than myself. He's a cowardly piece of trash, and I wish I'd never met him. Since all this happened, he's completely smashed something inside me that I didn't even realize was there. Before, I just didn't care about him. Now I know for certain he'll never care about me, and that hurts. After the event, I kept reaching out, texting, calling, because I was desperate and confused, clinging to some hope this wasn't really happening. I texted him twice, called once, but got nothing back. 2 nights ago, after telling my brother and having a huge fight, I was in a really vulnerable place and called him again. I think some part of me hoped he'd comfort me. He was always so emotionally available during our relationship, so different from what my mom had said. I didn't expect him to answer, but he did, and it was just awful. He started screaming the second he picked up, using every slur he could, words he'd never called me before. Called me a faggot, a puss, threatened me and my mother, told me he'd make sure I regretted ever meeting him if I told anybody. It was such a violent flip in his personality that I completely fell apart. I just sobbed while he raged until he finally hung up. I couldn't believe I hadn't trusted my mother, couldn't believe I'd let myself be played the same way she was all those years ago, all for some fantasy, all for nothing. I'm never contacting him again. I hate that I undid all the work my mother did to keep us safe. I did take some advice people gave me and sent all of this to my therapist, along with a more private explanation. I sent it at 5 in the morning the day after the event, then crashed for almost 15 hours. I woke up to tons of missed calls and texts from her. She must have thought I was pulling a prank since I didn't reply. We talked on the phone, and she told me I could call her anytime, day or night. That actually does make me feel safer. I'm grateful for her. I also tried joining some online support groups, but most of them just shamed me for the age gap or for being gay, so that didn't help much. I did confide in my 2 best friends against what some people suggested. These are people I trust completely. Leah, my oldest friend, we've been close since kindergarten, called me over FaceTime, as she usually does. The night this all happened, I had told her I was sick to avoid talking, but the next day she called to check in, and I broke down and just told her everything. She thought I was joking at first, wondered if I was on drugs or something. I don't do drugs, for the record, because I never cry. Once she realized I was serious, I told her the whole story, and it was actually freeing to finally say it out loud. Update 2. I don't even know how to start this. I keep typing and deleting, typing and deleting. My hands are still shaking. 3 weeks. That's how long it's been since everything happened. I've been staying at my mom's, going to therapy, trying to pretend I'm a normal person who didn't accidentally fuck his own father. Some days are better than others. Yesterday was not one of those days. I was at Target with my mom because she refuses to let me go anywhere alone anymore. She's been treating me like I'm suicidal or something. Maybe I am, I don't know. We were in the pharmacy section picking up her blood pressure medication when I saw him. Just for a second, turning the corner near the baby aisle. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my mom's arm so hard she yelped. "He's here," I whispered. She looked around confused until she saw him too. David. My father. My ex-boyfriend. God, I hate that I still think of him as both. He didn't see us. He was with someone, a woman, probably late 30s, pretty in that soccer mom way. They were looking at diapers. Diapers. I watched them from behind a display of vitamins like some kind of stalker. The woman was laughing at something he said, completely relaxed, completely normal. She had no idea what kind of monster she was with. My mom was already backing away, trying to get us out of there, but I couldn't move. I couldn't look away. This was his life. His real life, the one he went back to after he was done playing house with his own son. Then a little girl came running up to them. Maybe 4 or 5 years old, with dark hair and his eyes. She was carrying a stuffed unicorn and babbling about something. He picked her up and she wrapped her arms around his neck, calling him Daddy. Daddy. I think I made a sound, like a wounded animal or something, because my mom grabbed me and practically dragged me to the other side of the store. I was hyperventilating, full-on panic attack in the middle of Target. She sat me down on a bench near the entrance and kept telling me to breathe, but I couldn't. All I could think about was that little girl calling him Daddy when I never got to. When he ran away before I was even born. "We need to leave," my mom kept saying, but I couldn't move. I was fixated on the idea that he was just living his life. Happy. Normal. Like nothing had happened. Like I didn't exist. We sat there for maybe 20 minutes before I could function again. They were gone. Part of me was relieved, but part of me was devastated. I wanted to see more. I wanted to know who they were, what his life looked like, if he ever thought about me. When we got home, my brother took one look at me and knew something was wrong. I told him everything, about the woman, about the little girl. He got this look on his face that I'd never seen before. Hungry, almost. "We have a sister," he said. "Half-sister," I corrected, but he wasn't listening. "She's our sister, and he's raising her. He's being a father to her." His voice was getting louder, more agitated. "Why does she get to have him and we don't?" I tried to explain that it was complicated, that it wasn't that simple, but he cut me off. "It's not complicated. He chose her over us. Just like he chose you over us when he was fucking you." My mom lost it, started screaming at him about how cruel he was being, how I was the victim here. But I just sat there, numb, because part of me agreed with him. Part of me was jealous of a 4-year-old. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that little girl, about how she looked so happy and safe with him. How she got to have the father I never did. How fucked up is that? I'm jealous of my own sister for having a relationship with the man who sexually abused me without either of us knowing it. I started Googling. I know I shouldn't have, but I did. I found his Facebook page. He uses a slightly different name now, but the photos match. The woman is his wife, Sarah. They've been married for 6 years. The little girl is Emma, and she just turned 5. There are photos of birthday parties, family vacations, normal dad stuff. Him teaching her to ride a bike. Him reading her bedtime stories. All the things I used to fantasize about having with him when I was a kid, before I knew I was fantasizing about my own father. I'm so fucked up. I'm so unbelievably fucked up. The worst part is that I keep catching myself thinking about contacting them. Not him, I never want to see him again. But her. Sarah. I want to warn her. I want to tell her what kind of man she's married to, what he's capable of. But then I think about Emma, about how this would destroy her life the same way it destroyed mine, and I can't do it. My therapist says I need to focus on my own healing, not on his other family. But how can I not think about them? How can I not worry about that little girl? What if he hurts her? What if he leaves her the way he left me? I've been having these dreams where I'm at their house, watching them through the window like some kind of ghost. In the dreams, Emma looks at me and somehow knows who I am. She calls me brother. Then I wake up crying. My brother's been acting weird since I told him about Emma. He keeps asking questions about where we saw them, what store, what time. I think he's planning something stupid. I tried to talk to him about it, but he just shut down. He's been spending a lot of time on his laptop, and when I asked what he was doing, he said research. I'm scared. I'm scared of what he might do. I'm scared of what I might do. I'm scared that I'm never going to be normal again. 3 weeks ago, I thought the worst thing that could happen was finding out I was in love with my father. Now I know there are so many worse things. Like finding out he has a whole other family. Like realizing he's capable of being a good father, just not to me. I don't know what to do with any of this. I don't know how to live with knowing she exists. I don't know how to stop myself from wanting to protect her from him. I don't know how to stop wanting the childhood she has. Update 3, I don't even know where to start. I keep staring at my phone, reading the same text over and over like it's going to change or make sense somehow. It doesn't. My brother's been gone for 2 days. Just vanished. Left a note saying he was handling things and that we'd thank him later. Mom's been calling everyone, his friends, his professors, even checked the hospitals. Nothing. I had this sick feeling in my stomach that I knew exactly what handling things meant. The way he'd been asking about Emma, about where we saw them, what time they were at Target. I should have paid more attention. I should have known he'd do something stupid. But then yesterday, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer because I've been getting weird calls since all this started. Mostly people who somehow found out about the story, wanting details or just being creepy. But something made me pick up. Is this my name? Woman's voice. Shaky. Like she'd been crying. Yeah, who is this? My name is Sarah. I'm David's wife. I swear my heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. How did she get my number? How did she even know I existed? I need to talk to you, she said. About my daughter. About what your brother's been doing. Apparently, Emma's teacher called her 2 days ago. Said some college-aged guy had been hanging around the school, asking questions about Emma. What her last name was, what her dad looked like, if she had any brothers or sisters. The teacher got suspicious and told him to leave, but he kept coming back. Then yesterday, Sarah was at the grocery store with Emma when my brother approached them. Just walked right up to them in the cereal aisle. Emma was in the cart, playing with some toy, completely oblivious. Sarah said he looked at Emma for the longest time, like he was studying her face. Are you Emma? He asked her. Emma, being 5, just nodded and smiled. Kids have no sense of stranger danger. I'm your brother, he told her. That's when Sarah lost it. Started screaming at him to get away from them, caused a huge scene. Security came, but my brother just walked away. Didn't run, didn't argue. Just left. Sarah said Emma kept asking why the nice boy called himself her brother, if she really had a brother she didn't know about. How the fuck do you explain that to a 5-year-old? I don't understand what's happening, Sarah kept saying on the phone. David won't tell me anything, he just keeps saying we need to move, that someone found us. But I don't know who or why or what they want. I should have hung up. Should have told her to call the police and leave it at that. But listening to her voice, so scared and confused, knowing my brother was out there somewhere doing God knows what, I couldn't. Your husband is my father, I said. The silence stretched on forever. I could hear her breathing, could almost feel her trying to process what I'd just told her. That's impossible, she finally whispered. David doesn't have children. He told me he never wanted kids before Emma. He didn't want us. He left before we were born. But then how did you? How did your brother? I told her everything. About meeting David at the club, about the 4 months we spent together before I knew who he was. About the restaurant, about my mom, about how my brother's been obsessed with finding our father ever since. She threw up, I could hear her gagging, could hear the phone drop. When she came back, she was crying. You're 25, she said. Oh God, you're 25 and he. And you were. I was legal, I said quickly, though saying it made me feel sick. Barely. Jesus Christ, barely. She was quiet for a long time. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Has Emma ever said anything about David that seemed wrong? Anything that made you worry? I don't know Emma. I saw her once, at Target, for like 30 seconds. No, I mean, knowing what you know about him, what he's capable of, do you think she's safe? The question hung between us like a knife. Because honestly, I don't know. The David the first knew was charming, attentive, never made me feel unsafe. But the David my mother knew was abusive, controlling, dangerous. And the David who screamed slurs at me over the phone when I called him after everything happened? I don't know who that person is capable of being. I don't know, I admitted. I'm sorry, but I really don't know. She started crying again. I can't leave him. Not without proof. He'll fight me for custody, and what am I supposed to tell the judge? That my husband had a relationship with his adult son that neither of them knew about? That sounds insane. It is insane. But if I stay, and something happens to Emma. She trailed off. We talked for another hour. She told me things about David that I didn't want to know. How he sometimes disappeared for days without explanation. How he'd gotten violent with her once, early in their relationship, then spent weeks apologizing and swearing it would never happen again. How he was weird about Emma's bath time, always insisting on doing it himself. By the end of the call, we were both crying. Two people whose lives had been destroyed by the same man, trying to figure out how to protect a little girl who didn't even know she was in danger. I still don't know where my brother is. I've been calling him non-stop, but his phone goes straight to voicemail. I'm scared he's going to do something that makes everything worse. I'm scared he's going to hurt someone, or get hurt himself. But I'm also scared about Emma. About what kind of father David really is when no one's watching. About what my brother might have said to her, what questions he might have put in her head. Sarah gave me her number, told me to call if I hear from my brother, if I have any idea where he might be. I don't, but I keep thinking about what he said before he left. About how Emma gets to have the father we never did. What if he's not planning to hurt David? What if he's planning to take Emma? I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop imagining my brother, so desperate for a father figure that he'd kidnap a child to get close to one, or worse, that he'd try to save her from David the same way he wishes someone had saved us. I don't know what to do. I can't call the police without knowing what my brother's actually done. I can't contact David after the things he said to me. I can't even talk to my mom about this because she's already falling apart worrying about where my brother is. I feel like I'm drowning in all these secrets and lies, and every time I try to surface, something else drags me back down. I just want this to be over. I want my brother to come home. I want Emma to be safe. I want to never have to think about David again. But I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think it's about to get so much worse. Update 4. My brother came home this morning. Not through the front door like a normal person. I found him passed out in our childhood treehouse in the backyard. Mom was at work, and I was having coffee on the porch when I heard something crash. At first I thought it was just a raccoon, but then I saw his foot dangling from the wooden platform. He looked like hell. Unshaven, clothes wrinkled like he'd been sleeping in them, eyes red and hollow. When he saw me climbing up the ladder, he just stared at me like I was a ghost. "Where the fuck have you been?" I whispered, trying not to wake the neighbors. "Watching," he said simply. "Learning." The way he said it made my skin crawl. I helped him down and got him inside, made him shower while I tried to figure out what to tell Mom. He looked so broken, so lost, but there was something else there too. Something that scared me. Over breakfast, he finally started talking. He'd been sleeping in his car, parked outside David's house. Just sitting there, watching them come and go. Learning their routine. Emma leaves for school at 8:15. Sarah works from home most days. David leaves for work around 9, comes home around 6. "She's perfect," he said, staring at his untouched eggs. "Emma. She's everything I wanted to be when I was her age. Happy. Loved. Safe. She doesn't know you exist," I reminded him. "You can't just, but I do exist," he interrupted. "I'm her brother. That means something." I wanted to shake him. Make him understand how fucked up this all was. But then he pulled out his phone and showed me a video. Emma at the playground near their house, going down the slide over and over while David pushed her on the swings. She was laughing, completely carefree, calling him daddy in that innocent way kids do. "Look at him," my brother said, his voice breaking. "Look how he looks at her. Like she's the most important thing in the world." I saw it too. The way David's whole face lit up when Emma smiled. The gentle way he caught her at the bottom of the slide. The patience in his voice when she wanted to go again and again. It was everything I'd wanted from him when I was young and stupid enough to believe in fairy tales. "He's different with her," my brother continued. "I've been watching for days. He's a good dad to her. Why couldn't he be that for us?" The question hung between us like a loaded gun. Because honestly, I didn't know. Maybe we were too much of a reminder of what he'd done to our mother. Maybe he'd changed. Maybe he was always capable of love, just not for us. But then my brother showed me another video, and my blood ran cold. David and Emma at the park, but this time Sarah wasn't there. David was helping Emma change out of her wet clothes after she'd fallen in a puddle. The way he looked at her. It wasn't the same innocent father-daughter moment from before. There was something in his eyes that made my stomach turn. "You see it too," my brother said, watching my face. "That's why I had to do something." "What did you do?" He was quiet for a long time. Too long. Then he pulled out an envelope from his jacket pocket. Official looking. "Legal documents." "I filed for custody," he said. I stared at him. "You what?" "Emergency custody." I listed myself as a concerned family member who has reason to believe Emma is in danger. My head was spinning. "You can't just, that's not how it works. You're not her legal guardian. You have no rights." "I have more rights than you think," he said, sliding the papers across the table. I did my research. In this state, any blood relative can file for emergency custody if they can prove the child is in immediate danger. I scanned the documents. He'd been thorough. Listed David's history of domestic violence against our mother. Mentioned the inappropriate relationship with his biological son, carefully worded to make it sound like David had knowingly pursued me. Even included testimony from our mother about David's abusive behavior. "This is insane," I whispered. "Even if a judge takes this seriously, what then? You think they're just going to hand Emma over to you? You're a medical student who's never had a kid in his life. Better than leaving her with him." "But what about Sarah? She's her mother, she loves her." "Sarah chose to stay with him even after I told her the truth." My blood went cold. "You told her what?" "I called her yesterday, told her everything. About you and David, about what kind of man she's married to. I gave her a chance to leave him and protect Emma herself." I felt like I was going to throw up. "What did she say?" "She said she needed proof. Said she couldn't just take my word for it." His voice was getting harder, more bitter. "So I'm giving her proof. The custody hearing is scheduled for next week." This was spiraling so far out of control. I thought about Sarah, about the fear in her voice when she called me. About Emma, who was about to have her whole world torn apart by secrets and lies she was too young to understand. "You realize this is going to destroy her life," I said. "Emma's life. When all of this comes out in court, her life is already destroyed," he snapped. "She just doesn't know it yet. At least this way, she'll be safe." The doorbell rang, cutting through our argument. We both froze. Nobody ever came to visit, especially not this early in the morning. I looked through the peephole and my heart stopped. Sarah was standing on our porch, holding Emma's hand. Emma was in her school uniform, backpack slung over her shoulder, looking around with the curious expression kids get when they're somewhere new. "Shit," my brother whispered. "Shit, shit, shit. What do we do?" I hissed. "We let them in," he said, straightening up. "It's time Emma met her family." But as I reached for the door handle, I noticed something that made my blood freeze. David's car was parked across the street, engine running. He was just sitting there, watching our house. Waiting. The doorbell rang again, more insistent this time. Emma's voice drifted through the door. "Mommy, why are we here?" I looked at my brother, at the custody papers scattered on the table, at the front door that separated us from a 5-year-old who was about to learn that her entire life was a lie. "This is going to end badly," I whispered. "It already has," he replied, and opened the door.